everyone, welcome to this fly tying video. Today we're going to tie a Burrowing Nymph. The hook I'm using is the Hends BL 254 in the size 12. You could also tie this a little bit bigger. So to start the tying, I'm going to put down just a little bit of lead-free wire, and this is the 0.015. This is only to make the thorax a little bit bulkier and also adding just the tiniest amount of weight to this fly. So I'm going to do 7 turns, and here you want to place this about at the 1/3 point on the hook, so you just leave about an eye length behind the eye, and this is plenty of room to do the tying. So this is going to be our weight, then putting just a little bit of glue, and for this I'm using my super runny glue so that it soaks down into turns of wire and binds this down really well. And here I have some already done, and this is one fly that's really good to tie a bunch of at the same time. Well, any fly that you want to add some weight on is good to tie in a bunch. This way you can add the wire, put on the glue, let it dry, and then once you're done, maybe 5, once you're done the 5th, you can then start tying on the first one. So here I'm going with my 6/0 uni in white, and this is just to start the fly, and both to secure the wire and to build up the shape of it. Gone over it one turn or one time and then back down again. And here we want to go down to the bend of the hook, and here we're going to tie in the first material, and this is going to be the tails. For this I'm using some dyed pheasant tail, and this one has been dyed in a dark olive color. I'm going to choose 3 fibers. I know, or I'm pretty sure that fish can't count, but fishermen can. Put them 90 degrees from the stem, this way the tips are aligned. And here I'm going to tie these in the easiest way possible. So for the length I want these just a little bit longer, so take the measure, 1 turn over, then 1 underneath, and then you want to pull this up, and then 1 over again, and this way you have your tails split. You don't have to have these split at exact degrees or angles, but you just want these to be a little bit split so it isn't like a clump of pheasant fibers sticking out the back. Then cut these off. And here I'm going to grab my favorite material for nymphs, which is this nymph skin from Virtual Nymph. This one is in the color Natural, which is this little cream golden one, I would say. I've cut the end to a point, this way it's easier to tie in. And I'm just going to tie this in on my side. And as you go, you want to really pull on this and bring it down to where you tied in the tails. Then back up again, and here we can make for a nice and even underbody, or at least try to. And here we have a slight taper going from the back to the wire, and then as we have this wire here, it's going to naturally just make it a little bit bulkier. And for now we're done with this thread. So now we're going to tie in the gills, and to do this we're going to use the same thread, this uni 6/0 in white. And to do this, the easiest way is to just around your fingers, I'm going just to spin this up, and you want to do 6 turns, and then you cut these off and you have your 6 strands. These are quite long and too long for this fly, so I'm going to cut them in half. So now you're left with 12 strands of this white thread, and then I'm going to separate these in 2. So I have 2 bundles of 3. Just hold on to these for now, and I'm going to grab my Nanosilk from Semperfli. This one is the olive one, 80 and I'm just going to start tying it here, just in the middle of where we had the wire, or at the 1/3 point of the fly. I'm going to tie these in, and this is the same technique as you would for rubber legs if you have used those. So I'm just going to tie these in, and I'm going to leave about 50-50 on each side, and then the exact same with the other ones, just on the opposite side. Quite heavy turns just to tie these down, and the best way is to leave these like this, with 50% towards the front and 50% towards the rear, so this way it's just a little bit easier to handle. And then I want to just bring these up a little so we can start winding on the body. To do this, I'm just going to grab the nymph skin we left here at the end of the fly. So the first turns you really want to pull on this to get things started, and then with slightly overlapping turns we're going to go up about 2/3 of the body. Once we're here, we can start tying down the gills, and this is the exact same process that I used for my semi-realistic Batis nymph. So for this one I'm going to do the exact same thing, only using the uni-thread instead of the parapost or the yarn. I'm just going to use it on 1/3 of the body, so alternating between the far side and the near side. I'm just going to bind these down one at a time, and here are the last ones. Now as you can see we have all these gills sticking out from the side, and then you can just wind this up a few turns till we reach the thread, and a few quite heavy turns just to bind this down really well. You don't want this to come undone. And then we're going to use the same material for the whole rest of the fly, so instead of cutting it off and tying it in again, which would be quite a waste of space and material, just going to tie this up till the eye, and for now we can just leave it hanging like this, and later we're going to bring this back and form both the head and the thorax cover. I like to bring back my thread just a little in these grooves, this way it's easier to tie later, and then back up again. Now we're going to come back to our gills. We cannot leave these like this, they are a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is to grab an olive marker, and I'm going to color these just at the bottom, or the nearest part to the fly. Then I'm going to grab another color which is called yellow straw, and just to blend this a little. I don't really think it's that much needed, but it makes for a prettier fly, so I'm going to do it. And then bring these about 90 degrees from the body, and going to cut these off at an angle. They're going to have a taper going from the front to the back, so the ones at the front are going to be longer and the ones at the back shorter. The next material I'm going to add is some dyed olive partridge. And here I'm going to take one single feather, and I'm going to strip off the fluff from the bottom. This we don't need. And then I'm going to tie this in by the tip. So I'm going to grab the tip of the feather with my hackle pliers, and I'm going to bring down as many of these fibers as possible. And now we're left with a little triangle, and this I'm going to tie down, and going to tie this in facing forward or with the feather hanging out front, and then cut off the excess. Then in order to hide all of this mess here underneath this thread wraps and all this nymph skin, I'm just going to grab a little bit of dubbing, some opossum in both brown and olive, so this will make a nice little dubbing mix for this fly. And then I'm going to dub this on in an opposite manner, or from the front to the back, and then I'm going to grab the feather, and here I want to bring the fibers just a little bit forward, and then I'm going to bind the feather down. Try not to catch too many of the fibers, and then I'm going to bring back the nymph skin as well, and this first segment, or this first part, is going to be the head of the fly, so this is going to be quite small, 2 turns, and then we're going to bring, or to pull all these towards the front and then tie it down so it stays up like this. And this way we can continue tying the rest of the thorax. So here, adding just a little bit more of the same dubbing, I'm going to do the exact same thing a second time. And here I'm just tapering this thorax a little bit as I go, so I want this to become thicker and thicker just to match the body. And then I'm going to bring over the feather one more time, and I'm going to tie this down the exact same way as I did before, right in the center, try not to catch too many of the fibers. And here we can cut this one off, and then bringing over the nymph skin once again, trying not to push down the fibers too much. And then I'm going to tie this one in just slightly, or making this segment slightly longer than the last one. And this is going to be the actual thorax. Take your whip finish, and we're just going to whip finish right on this spot, 3 turns, and then pull tight and cut off. And now we can pull on the nymph skin and cut these off as well. Now I'm going to come in with the Velcro and just brush out a little bit of the stubbing in front, and also brushing the gills. Now, to give these legs a more natural appearance, I'm just going to slightly rub these, or slightly bend them, just pushing down and going through with my fingers, and this way they will have some bends in them, so they will have these ones. And now we're almost done with this fly, but a few more things to do. I'm going to grab the same olive marker, and this time I'm going to use the wide end, and I'm just going to color the whole back of the fly, and I'm just going to color a little bit underneath as well, just to blend this in with the thorax stubbing. Then underneath I'm going to color with the yellow straw as well, just to make a nice gradient from the front to the back. This is really not necessary, but makes for a much neater fly. Then, grabbing a dark brown marker, I'm going to color mostly the thorax, but also just a little bit of the body, and I'm going to color just the sides a little in this dark brown, and the thorax 2 dots for the eyes, and then the actual last thing to do is to add a thin coat of varnish all over the thorax and the back of the fly, and this is both going to secure the color and also bring it out, making it a lot more vibrant. So there we have the Burrowing Nymph. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time, and happy time!